A new national study of more than 3,000 migrant women has delivered shocking findings about high rates of sexual harassment in the workplace. More than half of the women surveyed have experienced harassment on the job. The ABC has spoken to Lynn Doe, who at 19 years old was forcefully kissed and touched by her employer while working on a student visa as a waitress in Sydney.
I felt hopeless. I felt angry about the system. I just felt like, these things, if it happens to me, it means that it can happen to anybody. And then there's no actual support or actual, system to navigate the situation. It makes me feel stuck. It makes me wonder, if it happens again, how do I address this? And it makes me fearful for the future that if it ever going to happen again, what do I do?
And Prabha Nandagopal is a human rights and discrimination lawyer and joins us now for more. Good morning, welcome to the program. This is a pretty harrowing report. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it is, Dan. The findings are deeply concerning, but sadly they're not surprising. Previous research has shown us that migrant women are at a higher risk of workplace sexual harassment.
And did this report or your experience give you any sense of what's behind that? Why is this so much more prevalent for migrant women?
Yeah, this report surveyed 3,000 migrant women. This is a really large sample size, so it gives us a strong foundation to understand the scale of the problem. And what we know is migrant women, they are particularly vulnerable compared to the rest of the population. And when they are in the workplace, they often don't experience sexually harassing behaviour in isolation. It's compounded by exploitative work conditions and racial discrimination as well.
One of the things that I found particularly startling amongst a report that was pretty shocking was the volume of people who just don't speak out. I think it was around 75%. Yes. What does that say to you?
Underreporting, unfortunately, is rife across Australian workplaces, and it's particularly problematic for migrant women because they fear reprisals, losing their job, and the impact making a report may have on their immigration status. Because we need to recognise when migrant women come to this country, they often have limited family and social networks. So staying in a job, regardless of the really difficult circumstances, could be a difference between having a roof over their head, food on the table, and quite literally being homeless.
And I don't know if it's been captured in this report, but we've heard experiences over recent years of people being wrongfully intimidated by saying if you don't do this, then your visa will be at risk.
Yes, that's right.
Is that what you're hearing as well?
That's right. Those power imbalances and threats around deportation or reducing shifts, for example, is really problematic.
So what is the solution? And I suspect that there won't be one silver bullet. So what is the raft of work that needs to happen here?
I think there are a number of initiatives that need to come together. So migrant women need to have safe, accessible reporting pathways. They need to be empowered to use it. But this must go hand in hand with broader cultural change in Australian workplaces and, importantly, accountability. So the government has passed, world-leading positive duty reforms that require all businesses to prevent workplace sexual harassment, but there needs to be greater awareness of these obligations, and the government needs to invest in the regulator to be able to enforce compliance.
And what do you think is the answer to the question about 75% of women not reporting?
I think that comes with there needs to be accountability because they often think, what's the point of reporting? Nothing's going to be happen. They also need support. So workplaces need to be providing them with culturally safe support that's tailored for their circumstances.
I'm interested of whether you see patterns of behaviour in different industries, because this report, part of the detail is that 53% of women in the horticultural industry, 51% in hospitality, 50% in retail and 42% in cleaning have experienced workplace sexual harassment. So they seem very high. What's your experience saying?
Yeah, that's consistent with my experience. I'm working with a number of different industries. So in these types of industries, we see that they're male-dominated, extreme power imbalances, remote working conditions as well, particularly in construction and horticulture.
Yeah, and as well as the a regime around education and enforcement, is there more that needs to happen to create or to actually enact the focus of that the world-leading legislation you were talking about to make that happen?
Yes, I think it needs to start with leadership in organisations. They are ultimately responsible and accountable, so they set the tone from the top for what their workplace culture is going to be.
And clearly then the regulation part is the stick that follows
exactly.
that. And are there stronger enforcement measures that are needed there?
No, I think the enforcement measures are there. They now need to be implemented. Yeah.